Here's a question for you. What's your price tag? I'm not talking about your bank balance or your real estate portfolio. I mean the raw materials, your actual physical components. If someone melted you down to basic elements and sold them at commodity prices, what would they get? Maybe $1.25? Perhaps $1.75 on a good day? You're mostly oxygen, carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, common materials. The hydrogen and oxygen, that's just water. The carbon, pencil lead. The nitrogen, fertilizer. You've got some calcium in your bones, a trace of iron in your blood, a fragment of phosphorus in your neurons. Total it up, and you're cheaper than a cup of coffee. But that's not the disturbing part. That's just the introduction. Most people, when they think about death, imagine the body as an object that simply stops working, like a clock that stops ticking. The gears freeze. It sits there, silent, collecting dust, peaceful, dignified. Physics tells a completely different story, and there's nothing peaceful about it. Let me start with what you are right now. You are built from approximately 7 octillion atoms. That's a 7 with 27 zeros after it. These atoms aren't static. They're in constant motion, vibrating, spinning, colliding. The water molecules in your blood are moving at hundreds of meters per second. The proteins in your cells are reshaping themselves thousands of times every second. There's an extraordinary amount of coordinated activity happening inside you right now. Pay attention to that word, coordinated. Your body isn't special because of its ingredients. Ocean water has most of the same elements. What makes you remarkable is the configuration, the impossibly precise configuration of 7 octillion atoms assembled into you. The probability of these atoms randomly falling into this exact arrangement is so small we don't have words to express it. You are, statistically speaking, impossible. Right now, you represent the most unlikely configuration of matter for miles around. Now here's where things get uncomfortable. These atoms don't belong to you. There's an elegant experiment with radioactive phosphorus. Researchers fed rats food with tagged phosphorus atoms so they could track them. The question was, how long does phosphorus stay in the brain? The answer? About 14 days. Half of it disappears in 2 weeks. The phosphorus in your neurons right now will be replaced by different phosphorus atoms by next month. And this happens with everything. Your body replaces almost every atom over roughly 7 to 10 years. The calcium in your bones was previously in soil, maybe in a coral reef before that. The iron in your blood was forged in a dying star billions of years ago. It's just passing through you right now. So, what are you? If the atoms are constantly being exchanged, what exactly is the you that persists? The answer is pattern. You're not an object, you're a process. Atoms enter your system, perform a specific routine we call being you, then depart. Fresh atoms arrive and execute the identical routine. The process continues. The participants keep changing, but the routine persists. That's what life is from a physics standpoint. You are a pattern that perpetuates itself. Think of a whirlpool in a river. The water flowing through is never the same water twice, but the spiral shape maintains itself. You're the spiral, not the water. And now we arrive at the frightening part. A whirlpool only persists as long as the current keeps flowing. Your body, every second of your existence, is fighting a battle. The opponent is the second law of thermodynamics. This law states that disorder always increases, always. In any isolated system, organization collapses toward randomness. Hot coffee cools, sand castles erode, buildings crumble. the universe has momentum toward maximum entropy. And the most probable state for your atoms is not a living human being. It's a lukewarm soup of simple chemicals. The number of ways to arrange your atoms into something that isn't you is so vastly larger than the arrangements that form you, the comparison is meaningless. So, how are you still here? The answer is eating. That sounds absurdly simple, but it's the deepest truth in biology. Physicist Erwin Schrödinger examined this in 1944. He asked, "What is life from a physics perspective?" His answer, "Living organisms feed upon negative entropy." You consume food, highly organized, low-entropy material. A banana is a complex structure of glucose, proteins, vitamins, all held in cellular architecture. That's organization. Your body disassembles those molecules and uses the energy and information to maintain your own organization. You reconfigure those atoms to repair cells, build proteins, power your heart, fire your neurons. Then you expel waste, disorganized high-entropy garbage, carbon dioxide, urea, heat. You are an entropy pump. You import organization and export chaos. That's metabolism, machinery for bringing in order and pushing out disorder. Your body burns approximately 2,000 calories daily just to preserve its structure. That's not exercise, that's simply the cost of remaining organized. 2,000 calories of structured chemical energy converted to heat and waste every day just to prevent the second law from winning. Every meal you eat, every breath you take is ammunition in this war. When you die, the war ends. The second law wins. Not gradually, instantly. The moment your heart stops, your metabolism ceases, and all the coordinated reactions maintaining your structure stop. What follows is what the second law has been waiting for your entire life. Within minutes, your cells begin auto-digesting. The enzymes that were carefully controlled start leaking out. They're just molecules. They do what they've always done, break things down. Except now, nothing stops them. Your own enzymes start consuming you from within. The bacteria in your intestines, trillions of them, have been confined by your immune system. Within hours, they begin spreading. They breach intestinal walls. They consume surrounding tissue. The chemical boundaries separating inside from outside collapse. Your temperature drops to match the room. The thermal energy your body maintained at 37 degrees dissipates. You equilibrate. The molecules slow. The chemical reactions that required that temperature halt. Then decomposition accelerates. The complex molecules in your tissues, proteins, lipids, nucleic acids, begin fragmenting. The chemical bonds break apart, not because something breaks them, but because they were always thermodynamically unstable. They existed only because your metabolism poured energy into maintaining them. Without that energy, they disintegrate spontaneously. The second law doesn't need tools, it just needs you to stop resisting. Within weeks, the molecules are broken into simpler forms, amino acids, sugars, eventually carbon dioxide, water, ammonia, methane, simple common molecules. The organized complexity that was you gets converted into disorganized simplicity. In warm conditions, most soft tissue vanishes within weeks. And here's what becomes of those atoms. Your carbon atoms get released as carbon dioxide. They drift into the atmosphere. A tree absorbs one, an insect eats the leaf, a bird eats the insect. A year from now, an atom that was part of your brain might be part of a bird's wing. Your hydrogen and oxygen were mostly water. They evaporate, join clouds, rain somewhere else. They become rivers, oceans, someone else's drinking glass. Your water becomes someone else's water. Your nitrogen returns to soil, becomes fertilizer, feeds grass, feeds cattle, becomes someone's meal. The nitrogen that carried your thoughts becomes part of a stranger's dinner. This isn't metaphor, this is chemistry. Your atoms disperse and rejoin planetary circulation. They retain no memory of having been you. An oxygen atom that spent 30 years in your blood is identical to every other oxygen atom. No marking, no trace. Within decades, your atoms are everywhere. In rain, oceans, wheat fields, forests, the breath of strangers. And here's the horror. You might think maybe someday technology could collect all those atoms and reassemble them and bring me back. It cannot. The second law doesn't just say things tend toward disorder. It says certain processes are irreversible. Entropy cannot decrease. Once disorder increases, you cannot reverse it without creating even more disorder elsewhere. Imagine dropping a wine glass. It shatters on the floor. Technically, every fragment is still there. You could, with perfect glue, reconstruct it. But here's what you can't recover: the sound, the heat, the vibrations through the floor. That kinetic energy got converted to acoustic waves and thermal energy that dispersed into the environment across trillions of molecules. Recovering that energy isn't merely difficult, it's physically impossible. The same applies to the pattern that was you. It's not just that your atoms scattered. The information, the specific configuration, the routine itself got converted into heat and simple molecules and gas. The information that described you was like a book, and that book didn't just get torn up, it got burned. The smoke dispersed, the ashes blew away. That information cannot be recovered, not with any technology. The second law prohibits it. That's what physics says happens after death. The pattern, the only thing that was genuinely you, gets erased permanently, irreversibly. And this should transform how you understand being alive. Because right now, that pattern is still running. Those 7 octillion atoms are executing the routine. The whirlpool is spinning. It took the universe 14 billion years to produce you. Stars had to form and explode. Heavy elements had to be synthesized. A planet had to cool. Oceans had to form. Life had to evolve for 4 billion years. All of that just to arrange atoms into the configuration that can sit there right now and contemplate its own existence. What astonishes me isn't that the routine ends. Everything ends. What astonishes me is that the routine happens at all. That a collection of atoms, each one mindless, each one blindly obeying physics, can assemble into something that looks at stars and wonders. The answer to what happens after you die, the universe reclaims its atoms, every one. It doesn't negotiate. It will never return them in that configuration, not ever again. In the entire future of the universe, from now until the stars burn out and black holes evaporate, that precise pattern will never run again. Your routine will execute exactly once. Thermodynamics guarantees it. I find that terrifying and exhilarating because it means this isn't a rehearsal. There's no encore. The atoms are executing the routine right now. The pattern that took 14 billion years to assemble is functioning at this exact moment. And it knows it exists, and it's listening to another pattern describe how patterns end. What are you going to do with it? That's the question worth asking.